The Gala shimmered like money had been poured into the walls, into the air, into every crystal glass filled to the brim with golden champagne. But Bruce Laurent wasn't drinking. He sat quietly at the far end of the ballroom, his black wheelchair polished to a gleam that matched his patent leather shoes. His suit, flawless. His cufflinks, platinum. His expression, vacant. He wasn't unnoticed. No. He was the talk. Only no one had the courage to speak directly to him. Isn't that the billionaire who vanished after the accident? Still in the chair? He used to be everything. He heard them. All of it. Every muttered word behind wine glasses. He didn't flinch. He didn't correct them. What was the point? He was the host of this gala. And still, he sat there alone. But that was before she walked in. Before a woman in a blue satin gown strolled through the double doors, one hand resting gently on the shoulder of a little boy in a bow tie. And before that boy pointed toward Bruce and whispered, a little too loud, "Mummy, that man's chair is awesome. If this story touches your soul even once, tap the like button right now. It helps this video reach more people and lets YouTube know this kind of story matters. And hey, comment below where you are watching from, or just say I'm with you, Mr. Hearthline. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Have you ever felt invisible in a room full of people? Because that's where Bruce's story begins. The chandeliers above the ballroom sparkled like constellations someone had nailed to the ceiling, but Bruce didn't lift his head to admire them. His eyes were fixed ahead, unblinking, unreadable. The piano music drifted from the far side of the hall, delicate and forgettable, much like the people who passed by. He sat at the edge of it all, physically present, emotionally elsewhere. Once upon a time, Bruce Laurent didn't enter rooms. He commanded them. Back then, CEOs shifted meetings just to catch his attention. Fashion houses sent him prototypes before launch. Women followed him like he was a season that came with promises of luxury. Now they smiled politely. Quick glances, quick pity, quick exits. The chair did that. But if Bruce was being honest, and he rarely was these days, it wasn't just the chair. It was what came with it. He hadn't danced in 2 years, hadn't dated, hadn't even laughed. The accident had taken more than movement from him. It had taken invitations. No one invited him into rooms anymore, into conversations, into glances. Tonight was no different. They mingled, they marveled. They murmured his name with their mouths and forgot him with their eyes. It wasn't the loneliness that got him. It was the habit of being lonely. He watched them. Men in tailored tuxedos, women in dresses that whispered wealth with every turn. They danced under the chandelier, chasing champagne highs and curated selfies. He hosted this gala. His foundation had sponsored every inch of it, but no one approached. He tapped his fingers once, nervous energy he thought he'd left behind years ago. Then again, then stopped. From somewhere behind him, he heard a clink of glass and soft laughter. He let the sounds fade. He didn't belong here. Not really. I should have stayed home. But just as he considered leaving, vanishing back into his fortress of solitude, he noticed a change. Not in sound, in silence. It came like a ripple, a breath held too long. Then came the boy, small, dressed in a vest and miniature bow tie, clutching the hand of a woman who looked like she'd walked in from another story entirely. Her hair curled like a question mark down one side of her shoulder, lips bare but shaped like they held secrets. Her dress, blue satin, moved like it had been sewn with intention, not trend. She didn't belong here. That's what made her matter. They passed the champagne towers, ignored the glittering influences. And that's when the boy pointed toward Bruce. "Mommy, that man's chair is awesome." Bruce heard it clear as day. A few guests glanced up, half shocked, half amused. But it was her reaction that struck him. She didn't shush the boy, didn't yank his arm, didn't pretend it hadn't happened. She just turned to where her son pointed, and locked eyes with Bruce. Bruce froze. Something flickered in her expression, not pity, not discomfort. Curiosity, warmth. She said something to her son, too quiet to hear. Then, she began walking toward him. People parted, whispered, watched. Bruce stiffened. Here it comes. Another speech about how brave he was. Another fake smile. But when she stopped in front of him, she didn't offer her hand. She knelt. Right there, in her heels and gown, eyes level with his, and said the last thing he expected, "Would you be my date tonight?" He blinked. She smiled. And for the first time in what felt like forever, something inside Bruce moved. Not his legs, his spirit. Cheryl never felt comfortable at events like this. The kind of night where napkins were folded like origami and people's smiles came with invisible disclaimers. She was only here because her best friend had begged her to fill in last minute, as a plus zone for someone who'd bailed. Free childcare had fallen through, so Finn came too. The invitation had said adults only, but Cheryl had called ahead and explained, and they'd told her, as long as he's well-dressed and quiet. He was dressed. He was quiet. But he was also curious. "Mummy," he whispered, pulling on her wrist. "Why are there so many forks?" Cheryl leaned down. "Just pick one. If anyone says anything, tell them it's your superhero weapon." Finn grinned. His two front teeth had just grown in, making his smile even more contagious. They walked through the ballroom slowly. Her gown grazed the floor, and with each step, she felt the eyes on her. She wasn't the type of beautiful people expected at galas. Too much texture in her curls, too much truth in her walk, not enough polish. But she had learned long ago, if you don't fit in, own the space you take up. She guided Finn toward the refreshment table. He snagged a grape, chewing it like he'd just survived a desert trek. That's when he saw him. "Mommy, that man's chair is awesome." Cheryl turned. Across the vast ballroom, past the glitter and noise, sat a man who didn't move. He didn't check his phone, didn't scan the room. He just watched, still, withdrawn, and yet magnetic. There was something in the sharp lines of his face, in the way his jaw set like he was holding something heavy inside. Cheryl followed the line of her son's pointing finger. Her breath caught. The man didn't flinch, didn't smile. But he looked sad, proud, tired, alone. Something stirred in her, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Not pity, recognition. She had stood in rooms before and felt unseen. She'd smiled through judgment. She'd heard whispers behind napkins. So she knew what that kind of silence looked like. "Can I say hi to him?" Finn asked. Cheryl hesitated. This was not their world, but then again, maybe it should be. "Let's go," she said. They walked slowly, she in heels, Finn trotting beside her like a shadow with confidence. The man didn't look up until they were nearly in front of him. Cheryl saw the moment he noticed them, the flicker of suspicion in his eyes, the tight pull of his lips. She was used to that look. People braced themselves for either flirtation or fundraising. But she knelt. Right there, in the middle of the room, she knelt until she was eye level with him. "Would you be my date tonight?" she asked, voice steady, soft, playful. His brow furrowed. "You're serious?" "Very. You don't even know me." "I don't need to," she said. "You look like a man who needed a partner, not a pity speech." His lips parted, shock. Then, something gentler. Finn tugged at her sleeve. "Mummy, are you going to dance with him?" Bruce, she would later learn his name, turned to the boy, and for the first time that night, he smiled. It wasn't a big smile, but it cracked the ice. "I haven't danced in a long time," he said quietly. "Then maybe it's time you did," Cheryl said, and she offered him her hand. He took it. She wheeled him toward the center of the dance floor. Slowly, rhythmically, the room turned to watch. Whispers started again, but different this time. No laughter, just questions, admiration. Cheryl moved like she belonged in his orbit, and Bruce, he let her. His shoulders dropped. His hand found her waist. Her fingers grazed the back of his neck. She spun him once, careful but bold. He blinked. Trying to embarrass me? No, she whispered near his ear. Trying to wake you up. For a beat, the room held its breath. And then, applause. Not loud, but enough. The kind that said, "We see you now." Bruce couldn't stop looking at her. She wasn't nervous, not fidgeting, not overcompensating, just present, completely, confidently. Her eyes scanned his face like they were learning something new, not calculating what was missing. "Why me?" he asked. They'd stopped just beneath the chandelier, its light catching in her curls. Cheryl looked around and then back at him. "Because no one else did." Bruce smirked, a flicker of the man he used to be. "That's it? And because you looked like a man who used to enjoy being surprised." "I used to enjoy a lot of things," he said, tone clipped. She caught it, didn't flinch. "Then let's try one more." She reached into the side of his jacket, where his hand rested, and gently brought it to her waist. "Just here," she whispered. His breath caught. She guided his chair slowly into motion, gliding between the couples. It wasn't exactly dancing, but it was movement. She moved with him, in step, as if the floor belonged to them. Whispers echoed again. Some watched with curiosity, others with admiration, a few with discomfort. He felt their eyes. He'd always felt them. But this time, he didn't care. "You're really doing this?" he asked her under his breath. She chuckled. "You're the one rolling. I'm just along for the ride." He nearly laughed. He hadn't done that in months. Cheryl leaned in close, just beside his ear. "Let them look. We're not here for them." Bruce looked down at her hand, still resting gently over his. It was warm, steady, and it didn't tremble, not once. As the music slowed, Cheryl shifted, placing one hand on his shoulder and pressing closer. "Don't take this the wrong way," he muttered, "but I don't usually dance with strangers." She smiled. "Then let's not be strangers." He raised a brow. "Bruce Laurent." "I know," she said. "Cheryl Langston. And the little bow-tie tornado is Finn." Bruce glanced toward the boy, who was currently dancing with an older couple, spinning in a full circle, arms wide like an airplane. "Is he always that fearless?" Bruce asked. "Every day." Bruce studied her for a moment longer. "What about you?" She tilted her head. "I'm afraid of plenty." "Then how are you doing this?" Cheryl met his gaze dead on. "Because I'm more afraid of regret than embarrassment." That landed. Hard. The music stopped. They stood. Well, she stood. He sat. In the center of the ballroom, people watching but no longer whispering. Someone clapped. Another followed. Within seconds, the entire room had erupted into soft applause. Bruce froze. His instincts screamed deflect, disengage, retreat. But Cheryl just leaned in, brushing her lips close to his jaw, whispering, "You're still the most powerful man in this room. They just forgot how to look at you." Bruce turned slowly toward her, searching her expression for mockery, sarcasm, anything performative. There was nothing. Just sincerity and something else. Not pity, not charity. Interest. Real, grounded interest. "You don't know what you're doing," he said. "People talk. Let them," she replied. "I'm not here for them." "What are you here for?" "To breathe. And maybe to remind someone they still can." That silenced him more than applause ever could. He hadn't felt this alive in so long. Still unsure of what to say, Bruce turned the wheels on his chair and guided them gently off the floor. As they reached the edge of the crowd, Finn ran over, slightly breathless. "Mommy, I danced with a grandma and she gave me a cookie." Cheryl laughed. "Please tell me you said thank you." "I did, and I asked her if her wheelchair was as cool as his." Bruce blinked. Cheryl's face turned a shade redder. "Finn." But Bruce was already smiling. "It is a cool chair." Finn nodded proudly. "You drive it like a boss." Bruce looked from the boy to his mother. "What are you two?" he asked. "Some kind of rescue team?" "No," Cheryl replied. "Just a mom and her kid trying to remember what joy feels like." Bruce looked away. jaw tightening. She noticed. "Hey," she said gently. "You okay?" He paused, then nodded. "Better than I've been in years," and he meant it. Bruce had long mastered the art of ignoring attention. He knew how to look unfazed, how to lean back in his chair just enough to appear in control but not arrogant. He knew how to respond to handshakes without being drawn into conversations. He had built a wall, refined, invisible but strong. Tonight, that wall cracked, and everyone saw it. As Cheryl rolled him off the dance floor and into a quieter corner, the crowd slowly resumed its rhythm. But the ripple they had created didn't fade. It lingered like perfume in the air. Bruce could feel it in the way people glanced sideways now, not out of politeness, but curiosity, even admiration. He shifted in his chair. "I can feel the stares," he muttered under his breath. Cheryl handed him a glass of water. "Let them watch. We gave them something better to talk about than overpriced wine." He smirked. "You do this often?" "What, dance with mysterious billionaires who look like they'd rather be anywhere else?" He gave her a side glance. "You're not exactly shy with strangers." "I'm not reckless," she said, sipping her own water. "But I pay attention." Bruce raised a brow. "To what?" "To people who look like they've forgotten how to be touched." He didn't respond, just stared into his glass for a second too long. "Too much?" she asked softly. He shook his head. "No. Just, no one talks to me like that anymore." "Then they're cowards," she said plainly. Bruce laughed once, a dry sound, more like realists. "You mistake survival for realism." He blinked at her. "You're full of one-liners." "I'm full of practice," she replied. "I've had years of being seen and unseen in the same breath." Bruce turned his full attention on her then. "What's your story?" he asked, not out of politeness, but real interest. Cheryl exhaled. "You don't want it all at once." "I want something." She smiled, tilting her head. "All right then. You first." He leaned back slightly. "That wasn't the deal." "Exactly. So, tell me one thing you haven't said out loud in a while." Bruce hesitated. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was loaded, like something sacred was about to be handed over. Finally he said, "I miss making people uncomfortable." Cheryl blinked. "Come again?" "Before the accident," he said slowly, "I could walk into a room and people would scramble. I was intimidating, powerful." "You still are," she said quickly. He gave her a half smile. "Not in the same way. Now they just avoid saying the wrong thing. Sounds like they're the ones uncomfortable, not you." Bruce looked at her, and for the first time, she saw the edge in his gaze. "I miss making people remember that I wasn't just successful, I was dangerous," he said. She didn't blink, didn't flinch. Instead, she said, "Then remind them." Bruce looked down at his lap, at the chair. "This doesn't exactly help." Cheryl leaned in slightly. "You'd be surprised what scares people." Bruce looked up. "Like what?" "Someone who can't be defined by what happened to them." He stared at her, really stared, and then something broke. Not painfully, but like the release of a breath he didn't know he was holding. Across the ballroom, a man in a white jacket raised his glass toward Bruce. Another woman nodded with subtle respect. Bruce noticed. So did Cheryl. "See?" she said softly. "They're remembering." He nodded slowly. Finn ran up again, face red from playing, and tugged at Cheryl's dress. "Mummy, can we go outside? I saw lights in the garden." Cheryl looked at Bruce. Bruce nodded once. "Let's go." The ballroom doors led into a lush outdoor patio, wrapped in fairy bulbs and trimmed hedges. Finn dashed into the garden, chasing shadows and fireflies, his laughter echoing between the trimmed stone walls. Bruce sat beneath a tree that arched overhead like a canopy. Cheryl stood beside him, her heels sinking slightly into the soft grass. "I didn't think you'd say yes," she said. He shrugged. "Neither did I." "What changed?" "You looked me in the eye." She crouched beside him again. "You didn't look away." Their faces were inches apart now. He could smell the subtle vanilla on her skin. see the gentle smudge of mascara under one eye, feel the pull of something he hadn't felt in far too long. Connection. I used to be invincible, he murmured. And now, I'm not sure what I am. She reached forward and touched the sleeve of his jacket. You're still standing, just differently. Bruce exhaled. You talk like someone who's been broken, he said. She straightened. Because I have. Tell me. Left at the altar, she said without hesitation. 6 months pregnant. No explanation, just gone. He blinked. And the father disappeared. Haven't heard from him since. Bruce didn't respond. Cheryl continued, voice steady, not bitter. I worked 2 jobs, wore old shoes until the soles gave up, and learned how to braid hair with one hand while holding a crying baby with the other. He looked at her like she was something unfamiliar, something rare. You're stronger than me, he whispered. No, she said, just bruised differently. The sound of Finn's laughter rang out again. Bruce turned to watch the boy. He's lucky. He's loved, she said. Bruce nodded. That matters. She sat beside him now, not kneeling, equal height. Bruce looked at her profile, the way the garden lights touched her skin like it had known her for years. You don't scare me, she said softly. But pushing me away might. He turned to her, stunned by the honesty. Her hand found his, fingers interlaced, and for the first time in years, Bruce didn't pull away. The night air wrapped around them gently, carrying a coolness that felt like a balm after the heat of the ballroom. Bruce hadn't realized how long it had been since he simply sat beneath the stars. With another human being, not talking business, not performing, not pretending, Cheryl leaned back slightly, propping her elbows on the stone bench behind them. Her gown shimmered faintly under the garden lights. Her hair had come loose in the breeze. I can hear your thoughts, she said. Bruce arched a brow. Doubtful. She smirked. You're wondering why someone like me would waste her night on someone like you? He glanced sideways at her. You're not subtle. Nope, she agreed. Not with truths. Bruce exhaled, long and slow. It's not about worth. It's about damage. Cheryl didn't flinch. Whose? Mine? She nodded once. Want to compare notes? He gave her a long look. You think this, he motioned toward the chair, is just a note? I think it's a sentence in a much bigger story, she said. Not the end, not the headline. Bruce stared at her like she'd just translated something buried in his bones. I forgot what that sounded like, he said after a pause. What? Someone talking to me. Not about the chair. Just to me. Cheryl leaned in, her voice softer now. Bruce, the chair is part of you, but it's not you. She reached up, brushing her fingers gently along the edge of his jawline. His breath caught. He didn't move. Your silence is loud, she whispered. I'm still learning how to speak again, he said, voice low. You're doing fine. Her hand lingered against his face, warm, steady, unafraid. Bruce closed his eyes for a moment, just long enough to remember how it felt to be seen, not assessed. When he opened them again, Cheryl had leaned even closer, their foreheads nearly touching. Say something honest, she whispered. He hesitated. I'm scared. Of what? That if I let someone back in, they'll leave again. Cheryl's eyes didn't waver. I'm not a tourist, Bruce. He blinked. I don't visit people like you, she said. I either stay or I don't come at all. And if I push you away, she shrugged. I'll fight back. That pulled a breath of laughter from him. You think I'm worth fighting for? Cheryl leaned forward and pressed her lips lightly to the corner of his mouth. Not a kiss. Not yet. But enough to whisper something skin deep. You're already being fought for. Bruce closed his eyes again. This time, he didn't reopen them quickly. She shifted, leaning her head against his shoulder. They sat like that for several moments, the silence becoming something sacred, not awkward. Fireflies danced somewhere near the garden wall. Finn had tired himself out and was now sitting on the edge of a water fountain, talking to his reflection. Bruce tilted his head just slightly. You really brought him to a gala? Cheryl chuckled. I bring him everywhere. He's never been a reason not to show up. That's brave. It's necessary. Bruce turned his hand under hers, slowly, deliberately, until their palms met fully. I didn't expect any of this, he said. You didn't expect to feel anything tonight, she corrected. No, but you did. Bruce nodded. You walked into my silence like it was a room you knew by heart. I've been there before, she said. I just didn't want to stay there forever. He looked at her, really looked. Cheryl met his gaze without blinking. I don't want you to stay in that silence either, she said. Bruce studied her for a long time before speaking. I don't know how to get out. Let me show you. And she stood, brushing the folds of her gown as she extended her hand to him. Where are we going? He asked. She smiled. To remember what the night air feels like at full speed. He grinned, despite himself. You want to race down the garden path. I want to feel something stupid, she said. You in? Bruce chuckled. Always. She climbed onto the footplate of his chair like it was the most natural thing in the world, standing with balance and grace as he turned the wheels and rolled them forward. They zipped down the narrow cobblestone path, her laughter trailing like a song behind them. Finn cheered from the fountain, clapping as they made a loop. Bruce hadn't smiled like this in years. By the time they stopped beneath the arch of fairy lights again, his chest was heaving, not from effort, but from release. Cheryl jumped down. See? She said, not broken. He looked up at her, heart pounding for reasons he didn't entirely understand. Stay for a while? He asked, voice barely audible. Cheryl reached down, brushing her knuckles across his cheek once more. I'll stay until you believe you deserve it. And this time when she kissed him, it wasn't soft. It was certain. The kiss left Bruce stunned, not because of its boldness, though it was bold, but because of its clarity. There was no hesitation in her lips, no testing of waters, no quiet if you'll let me embedded in the touch. It said, I see you, I choose you, and I'm not afraid. Cheryl pulled back just slightly, lips still hovering near his. Her voice was steady. Too much? He shook his head. Not even close. Good, she whispered, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek, because I'm not going to waste tonight. She sat beside him again, the stone bench cool beneath her, the night air gentling the space around them. Bruce ran a hand down his face, then rested it in his lap. I didn't think I could be this version of me again. Cheryl tilted toward him. Which version? The one who still wanted. She looked at him for a long time. Bruce, wanting you was never the hard part. Believing you still want back. That's what tonight's about. He exhaled. After the injury, people didn't stop loving me. They just didn't know how to anymore. That's not your burden to carry, she said. Some people disappear when things aren't picture perfect. That doesn't mean they were right to go. He gave a small nod. She left 2 weeks after the diagnosis, said she couldn't handle the unknown. Cheryl didn't respond immediately. She didn't need to. Sometimes stillness spoke loudest. You ever feel like people are only loyal when it's convenient for them? He asked. All the time, she replied. Bruce turned his head slowly to face her. 6 months pregnant, she said. Dress picked, church booked. Then a text message. I'm not ready to be a father. No follow-up, no closure, just silence. Bruce blinked. He never came back? Cheryl shook her head. Not even to meet Finn. I raised my son on evening shifts and shoes with holes. Bruce leaned in. You did all that alone? I was never alone, she said, gesturing toward the garden where Finn had now curled up on a bench and was dozing. I had him. You're remarkable. She laughed softly. I'm surviving. There's a difference. Bruce reached out, took her hand. Not tonight. Tonight you're just beautiful. Cheryl smiled, her eyes glinting beneath the low string lights. Careful. Flattery makes me suspicious. He chuckled. I don't flatter. I observe. Then observe carefully, she whispered. Because I'm not just here to make you feel good for one night. He held her gaze. What are you here for? To start something neither of us knew we needed. Bruce went quiet again. A comfortable quiet. He watched Finn sleep. Watched the way Cheryl's hand never left his. Watched the sky above them stretch out like a quiet witness. I can't promise I'm whole, he said quietly. I'm not asking for whole, she said. I'm asking for real. He swallowed hard. You don't scare easy. No, she said, but I'm terrified of being erased. That hit him like a punch to the ribs, because he knew exactly what that felt like. Cheryl continued, her voice dropping. If this is just a moment for you, say it. I'll walk away. But if it's more, if it's even trying to be more, don't shut the door before it opens. Bruce didn't respond immediately. He leaned his head back, stared up at the lights strung between the trees, tiny orbs glowing against the dark. I haven't let anyone in, he said. I noticed, and yet, here you are. Here I am. Bruce turned to her again. His eyes weren't hard anymore, or guarded. They were searching. I want to let you in, he said. Then do. His hand came to her cheek slowly, as if asking permission with each inch. She didn't flinch, didn't lean away. When his thumb brushed her cheekbone, her lips parted, but not for words, for breath. He leaned forward. This time, the kiss was his. It was slower, hungrier, but reverent. When they pulled apart, Cheryl placed her forehead against his and whispered, Tell me you won't disappear. I won't, he murmured. But I might mess up. Then mess up in my direction, she replied. I can work with that. They sat like that for a while, hands entwined, hearts just beginning to trust the silence between the beats. And above them, the garden lights flickered like blessings. Cheryl unlocked the apartment door with one hand, holding Finn's sleeping weight in the other. His arms draped around her neck, breath warm against her collarbone. Bruce rolled in slowly behind her, careful not to scratch the polished hardwood floor with the rubber wheels. The space was small but tidy, faint scent of vanilla candles, worn couch, toy cars scattered beneath the coffee table. Cheryl lowered Finn onto the sofa with practiced ease, covering him with a soft grey blanket. He'll be out till morning, she whispered, brushing his curls back gently. Party wore him out. Bruce looked around the room. It wasn't luxury. It was lived in. The kind of place where meals were cooked from scratch and laughter echoed on weeknights. She turned back to him, her heels finally off, her gown loose at the shoulders. Water, she offered. He shook his head. No, thank you. She stepped closer, barefoot now, her toes brushing the edge of his wheels. You can still leave, she said quietly. Bruce swallowed hard. Her voice wasn't challenging. It wasn't seductive. It was honest. I won't, he said. I don't want to. She nodded once, slowly. Then let's not pretend. She took his hands, both of them, and placed them on her waist. His fingers gripped gently, unsure at first, but not reluctant. I'm not fragile, she whispered. Not even close. He let out a shaky breath. I haven't done this since. You don't have to explain. She climbed onto his lap. Not hurried, not shy, reverent, her thighs on either side of him, her arms draped loosely around his neck. Is this okay? She asked. Bruce nodded, jaw tight, heart hammering against his ribs. Yes, she leaned in, lips grazing his ear. Then stop holding your breath. He didn't realize he was, until she kissed him. Slow, deep, certain. Bruce's hands trembled as they slid up her back, feeling every curve beneath the smooth fabric. Cheryl guided them higher, encouraging his touch, showing him he was allowed. Her dress slipped further down her shoulder. His lips found her neck, hesitant at first, then with growing need. She sighed against him, grounding them both. Do you feel me? She whispered. His voice was hoarse. Every inch. Cheryl eased back, rising just enough to reach behind her neck and release the clasp of her gown. The satin slid down her body in a soft, deliberate motion. Bruce's breath caught. His hands moved to her waist, fingers tracing her skin like it was the first warmth he'd known in years. "You're beautiful," he murmured. Cheryl smiled gently. "You're present. That's more important." She guided his hands to her hips, then leaned forward, pressing her chest against his, her cheek brushing his. "You're allowed to want this," she whispered. "You're allowed to feel. I thought I couldn't anymore. You can." She moved with him, rhythmic, responsive, patient. No awkward fumbling, no scripted passion. Just two people rediscovering what it meant to connect. Bruce kissed her again, deeper now, anchoring himself in her scent, her skin, the strength of her body against his. The chair didn't matter. Nothing outside that moment mattered. When she lowered herself onto him fully, they both gasped. It wasn't wild. It wasn't fast. It was anchored, deliberate, sacred. His hands gripped her back. Hers gripped his face. Each movement was a promise. "I see you. I want you. I'm not leaving." Her moans filled the room, not loud, but layered with emotion. And Bruce, he let go. He felt. His body, once marked by limitation, now felt alive beneath her. She wrapped her arms tighter around him as their rhythm deepened, her breath hitching, his growls muffled against her shoulder. They moved like a single body, carrying shared pain towards something tender, something whole. When the final wave hit, Bruce held her like he never wanted to forget this moment, and she held him right back. Not because he needed help, but because she wanted to. After, Cheryl rested her head on his shoulder, skin warm, breath soft against his collarbone. Bruce stroked her back in slow circles, his mind unspooling with things he didn't have words for. Finally, he whispered, "You didn't just wake me up. You brought me back." Cheryl didn't reply. She just lifted her head, kissed him once more, soft, closed-mouthed, and whispered, "Then stay." The apartment was silent, except for the subtle hum of the city outside and their intertwined breathing. Bruce had never known a night could feel like this. Not rushed, not obligated, just real. Cheryl sat in his lap, arms loosely wrapped around his neck, her skin still glistening from their shared intensity. Her legs curled around his waist, fitting like they belonged there. He didn't speak, not because he had nothing to say, but because words didn't seem to measure up to this moment. She tilted her head slightly, watching him with eyes that didn't demand anything, only received. "You're somewhere in your head again," she whispered. Bruce blinked. "I'm trying to hold on to this." "You don't have to." "I do," he said, "because nothing's ever felt like this. Not even before." Cheryl brought her forehead to his, noses brushing. "You don't owe me a performance," she said. "You're already here." Bruce touched her cheek, brushing a thumb along the curve of her face. "I thought the chair would mean I could never be enough." She shook her head gently. "This isn't about your chair. Then what is it about?" "It's about presence," she whispered. "It's about letting someone feel you, not just your body, your soul." Bruce swallowed hard. "Feel me again," she said, and she guided his hands back to her thighs. Soft, strong. She rose slightly on his lap, shifting with aching slowness, allowing him to reposition beneath her. She watched every expression on his face, every twitch, every gasp, like each was a sacred offering. When she lowered herself onto him again, it wasn't hunger that drove her, it was intention. He groaned beneath her, head falling back slightly. His hands gripped her hips now, more confident, more knowing. Cheryl moved, slow, precise, deliberate. And Bruce met her. He lifted slightly with his arms, using what strength he had to rise into her rhythm. It was uncoordinated at first, but it was real. And the effort, the vulnerability, was intoxicating. She gasped. "That's it." Her palms pressed to his chest, fingers splayed, feeling his heartbeat quicken beneath her touch. Bruce gritted his teeth. "You feel like fire. And you feel alive," she whispered, leaning down to kiss him. Open-mouthed, deep, consuming. Their bodies rocked in sync now, a steady, sensual rhythm that grew fuller with every breath. No rush, no fear, only this, His lips trailed down her neck, stopping at her collarbone, tasting her skin as her breath caught, and her hips rolled harder against him. "You're doing this," she whispered. "You're not broken. You're here." Bruce held her tighter, his hands sliding up her back, his strength rediscovered in the way her body responded to his. Cheryl moaned softly, biting her lip, leaning forward to press her chest against his as their foreheads locked again. "I've never... like this," he panted. "You don't have to explain," she whispered. "Just stay with me." She rode him slowly, deeply, her breath a chant against his ear. Bruce felt every inch, every muscle, every pulse, and for the first time in years, he didn't feel like a shell of who he used to be. He felt whole. The air thickened as the rhythm between them deepened. Cheryl's nails raked gently down his back as her thighs flexed tighter around him. He held on, physically, emotionally. As she began to tremble above him, he whispered, "Let go." And she did, quietly, fiercely, completely. Her body tensed, shook, then melted against his. A soft, broken moan left her lips as her hips slowed, breath stuttering. He followed soon after, his release quiet, full-bodied, leaving him gasping, as he clutched her to him like he never wanted to be separated. They collapsed into each other, her head tucked beneath his chin, his hands still tracing the curves of her back. Neither moved for a long time, until Cheryl murmured, "Now you know." "Know what?" "That you're more than a man in a chair." Bruce exhaled, long and deep. "You make me feel like I exist again." She kissed his chest. "You never stopped. You just needed someone to hold the mirror." He tightened his arms around her. No more words, only heartbeat and breath. And for Bruce Laurent, that was enough. The apartment was still, bathed in the faint grey glow of pre-dawn. Bruce had fallen asleep in the recliner, Cheryl curled lightly across his lap, her hair splayed over his chest like ink. Their bodies were covered in a soft blanket she'd pulled from the couch hours earlier. Skin to skin. No defenses. It was the kind of silence that didn't ask for anything. Until the vibration started. His phone, forgotten on the side table, buzzed once. Then again. Then again. Cheryl stirred first, eyes fluttering open. She glanced toward the sound. Bruce shifted slightly beneath her and reached for the device with a sleepy groan. One glance at the screen snapped him fully awake. Headlines. Dozens. Billionaire Bruce Laurent's pity dance goes viral. Single mom seduces CEO in a wheelchair. Is it real love or social leverage? Disgraced heir's garden romp caught on camera. Cheryl sat up slowly. "What is it?" Bruce didn't speak. He just handed her the phone. Her eyes scanned the screen. As she read, her posture changed. Shoulders straightened. Breath deepened. "Wow," she muttered. "That was fast." Bruce looked away, jaw locked. "I should have known." "This isn't your fault," she said firmly. "They're calling you an opportunist. I don't care what they call me." "I do," he snapped. "I care a lot." The words hung in the air, sharper than either intended. Cheryl stood, grabbing her robe and wrapping it around her. "You're not the one they're dragging." "No," Bruce said, setting the phone down. "But I'm the one they're blaming for giving you a platform." Cheryl turned, eyes narrowing. "Is that what you think this was? Me using you?" "No," he said quickly. "But that's what they think. And they'll hurt you." "I can take it," she said. "What I can't take is you shutting down and pushing me away like everyone else." Bruce looked up at her, shirtless, vulnerable, exposed in more ways than one. "I don't want to be the reason your life gets torn apart," he said. "Not again." "You're not," she said firmly, "but you will be if you start disappearing." He stood emotionally, if not physically, drawing himself back into guarded mode. "I need time," he muttered. "Space to fix this." She froze. "I'm not your liability," she said. "I know. Then don't treat me like one." Bruce looked at her, at the woman who had helped him feel everything he thought he'd lost. And yet, here he was, folding inward again. Maybe this was too fast, he said under his breath. Cheryl's heart cracked. but her voice didn't. "I have a son," she said. "I don't get to play games or wait around for men to decide if I'm convenient." He flinched. And still, she didn't raise her voice. "Say it, Bruce," she said quietly. "Say you don't want this anymore." "I do," he said, eyes flaring. "I want you so badly it scares the hell out of me." "Then stop pushing," she said. "Stop protecting me from ghosts. I don't need a shield. I need a partner." Silence fell again. Bruce turned toward the window. The sky was warming. Another day was beginning, this time with headlines screaming his name. He didn't know how to fix it, but he knew pushing her away would only add to the wreckage. Still, his hands clenched on the armrest. "I'll make a statement," he said, "about how none of it's true. That I invited you. That it was all my choice." Cheryl nodded once. "And then what?" she asked. He looked at her. "Then I figure out how to protect you and Finn." "You don't protect me by vanishing, Bruce," she said softly. "That's how you leave scars." His throat tightened. "I'm not asking for a fantasy," she added. "I just need you to show up for the truth." He nodded slowly. Then his phone buzzed again. This time it was his assistant, media requesting comment. "It's spreading fast." He looked at Cheryl. "I'll handle it." "Good," she said, walking toward him. "But don't handle me." She leaned down, kissed him once, firm and short. Not goodbye, not hello, just a warning. Then she disappeared into the hallway, closing the bedroom door behind her. Bruce sat there, the sting of her absence fresh on his skin, knowing full well he was about to lose something real if he didn't fight like hell to keep it. The doorman recognized her the moment she marched through the front entrance. He stood, adjusting his jacket nervously. "Ma'am, Mr. Laurent isn't expecting visitors." Cheryl didn't slow down. "Good." The elevator doors opened just as she reached them, and she stepped inside without looking back. Her heels clicked sharply on the polished marble floor, echoing off the gold-plated walls. She didn't breathe until the doors shut, didn't blink until she reached the top floor. She wasn't here for pity or explanations. She was here for truth. When the elevator opened, the penthouse stretched out in cold, minimalist silence. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city skyline. White furniture, glass tables, walls like polished stone. Soulless. She stepped in and found Bruce by the windows, his back to her, his posture rigid. "You really sent a driver?" she asked, voice low but firm. He turned slowly, clearly not expecting her. "Cheryl?" "No," she cut in. "You don't get to say my name like that. Like it's still yours to say." He exhaled. "I didn't mean—" "But you did, Bruce. You meant to push me away." Again. He crossed the room, his wheels whispering over the hardwood. "I was trying to protect you." Cheryl threw her hands up. "From what? From opinions? From whispers I've already lived through. You think this is new to me?" He stopped a few feet away. "You don't understand what comes with my name." She leaned in, furious and calm all at once. "Then educate me. Because I thought your name came with integrity, with fight. But now all I see is a man hiding behind excuses." His jaw flexed. "They were calling you names, Cheryl." She didn't flinch. "Let them. You have a child, and he's learning how to stand tall by watching me, not you." That hit deeper than he expected. He turned his chair slightly, looking away. "You have no idea how hard it is to be seen like this." She knelt in front of him, again, just like that first night. Not to pity, but to challenge. Then stand up differently. His eyes met hers, sharp and full of wounded fire. "I don't know how." She didn't blink. "Then let me show you. But you have to choose me. Not once. Not behind closed doors. Not when it's quiet. Publicly, loudly. I'm not ashamed of you," he said. "Then prove it." Silence. Then, slowly, his hand reached out. Cheryl didn't take it. Not yet. She rose instead, standing tall above him. "I don't need you to fall in love with me tonight, Bruce. I need you to stop treating this, us, like a detour from your damage." He looked up, wounded. "I'm trying Try harder, she said, because I won't wait around while you wrestle your demons alone. Bruce nodded slowly. Then he wheeled back, spun toward the window, his voice barely above a whisper. Do you love me? Cheryl paused, then stepped forward again, her voice calm. Yes, I do. He turned back toward her. Terrifyingly, she added. He breathed deeply. Then don't go. I wasn't going to. He reached out again, and this time she took his hand. He pulled her into his lap, not urgently, not possessively, but with need. Their lips met, not soft, not hesitant, raw, earnest, hungry. Every unsaid word pressed between them, every fear pushed aside by the strength of their bodies colliding. When they broke apart, Cheryl rested her forehead to his. I came here because I refuse to be erased, she whispered. You won't be, he said. Not again. You mean it? He nodded, firm. I want you beside me, not hidden, not on borrowed time. Then stop writing me out of your story, she said. He nodded. From now on, you're the headline. They stood still in the center of the penthouse. Well, she stood. He remained seated, but for the first time, they were level. Cheryl didn't need flowers, didn't need fanfare. She needed one thing: clarity. She backed up slightly, just enough to look Bruce directly in the eyes. Do you love me? She asked. Her voice wasn't fragile. It was firm, like a lit match held over soaked wood, waiting to see if he would ignite it. Bruce blinked. The question landed like a punch, not because it was surprising, but because it demanded truth. He didn't look away. Yes, he said, without hesitation, terrifyingly. She inhaled, then nodded. Once, slow, but not satisfied. Then say it louder, she whispered. He tilted his head, uncertain. I don't mean shout it, she continued. I mean live like it, move like it, fight like it. Bruce wheeled closer. What does that look like? It looks like showing up when it's inconvenient, she said. It looks like answering the phone when the world's on fire. It looks like not hiding the people who make you feel alive. Bruce's hand tightened on the armrest. I was ashamed of myself, he admitted. Not of you. But I carry the cost when you disappear, she replied. You don't get to use silence as a shield and then call it love. He nodded slowly, a muscle twitching in his jaw. You're right. Cheryl stepped even closer. I'm not angry because of the headlines, Bruce. I'm angry because you treated my presence like a risk instead of a gift. He winced. She crouched slightly, so they were face to face again. I chose you. Even with the noise, even with the chair, even with your grief still unpacked. Bruce's voice dropped. And I didn't choose you back. Not completely. Not when it counted, she said. He stared at her hands, her chest rising and falling. I'm scared, he admitted. That one wrong move, and I'll ruin everything. You're doing that by standing still, she said. Love doesn't need perfection. It needs participation. He looked up sharply. I'm here, he said. Then act like it. He reached for her hand, held it tighter this time. I'm going to make it right. Cheryl didn't pull away, but she didn't melt either. Then prove it, she said. He nodded, slowly. Stay. She didn't answer with words. Instead, she climbed gently into his lap, her movements slower this time, not seductive, but deliberate. Her forehead rested against his, their breaths sinking again. Bruce wrapped his arms around her waist, not as a plea, but as an anchor. I love you, he said again, firmer, no tremble. I know, she whispered. Then she kissed him, quiet but loaded. A seal, a charge, a promise. When they parted, she brushed her fingers against his cheek and said, Then let's start over. But no more half measures. None, he vowed. I'm not here to fix you, she added. I don't need fixing, he said. Exactly. They stayed like that for several long beats, breathing in the new stillness, one not born from fear, but resolution. Then Cheryl whispered, Tell them. Bruce blinked. Tell who? Everyone. He paused. You mean I mean, tell the world, she said. Tell them I'm not your scandal, I'm your choice. Bruce's pulse spiked, and in that moment, he knew this wasn't about saving face. It was about stepping into truth, fully. The morning light slipped through the tall windows of the penthouse, quiet and golden, painting everything it touched in peace. Cheryl stood in Bruce's kitchen barefoot, hair tousled, robe knotted at her waist. The aroma of sizzling eggs filled the space. She flipped the pan with ease, humming something low under her breath. Behind her, Bruce watched. From the edge of the open living room, he sat with a small coffee cup in hand. No assistants, no headlines, no plans, just this, her, and the soft clatter of breakfast. This doesn't look like a rescue mission, she teased without turning around. Bruce smiled, more like a hostage situation. I can't stop staring. She glanced over her shoulder, grinning. Careful. I burn toast when flustered. Burn mine, he said. I'll eat it anyway. She laughed, short and real, and turned back to the stove. He liked this version of her. Not dressed up for a gala, not bracing herself for battle. Just home. Footsteps pattered from down the hallway. Finn stumbled in, rubbing his eyes, hair standing in every direction. He blinked at Bruce, then blinked again, then walked straight over and climbed into his lap like he'd done it 100 times before. Bruce stiffened for half a second, then relaxed, arms wrapping gently around the boy. Morning, Finn mumbled, snuggling into Bruce's chest. Cheryl froze mid-flip, heart thudding. Bruce kissed the top of the boy's head without thinking. Morning, champ. Cheryl bit her lip. Bruce met her eyes over Finn's curls. She saw it, all of it, and it was real. Finn squinted up at him. Are you my mommy's boyfriend now? Cheryl gasped. Bruce coughed. Finn yawned. Bruce leaned back in the chair, adjusting the little boy slightly on his lap. Well, he said, I think I'm something like that. Finn nodded seriously. Okay, but if you make her cry, I'll throw cereal at your head. Bruce tried not to laugh. Fair. Cheryl shook her head, turning back to the stove, trying not to cry for a different reason. Minutes later, they sat at the kitchen island. Bruce, Cheryl, and Finn. Plates full, sunlight spilling over everything. So, what's the plan today? Cheryl asked casually, slicing into her toast. Bruce looked up. The public statement goes out at noon. She paused. About me. About us. She studied him. He didn't blink. I've avoided telling the truth for too long, he said. Time they hear it from me. Cheryl exhaled slowly. You sure? Bruce reached across the table, took her hand. Let them know I'm done hiding, that I found something worth being seen for. Finn looked up. Are you talking about pancakes? Bruce laughed. Something even better. The boy beamed. Cheryl didn't speak, just squeezed his hand back. Not everything needed words. Later that morning, Bruce sat at his desk, alone, his laptop open, fingers hovering over the keyboard. He didn't want a team to write this for him. He would do it himself. His post read, Last night, I danced for the first time in 2 years. Not because I was ready, but because someone saw me before I could see myself again. Her name is Cheryl. She's not a headline. She's my beginning. He hit post. No PR spin. Just the truth. Then he wheeled back into the living room, where Cheryl and Finn were building towers out of cereal boxes on the rug. He watched them, this strange, unexpected snapshot of a life he never thought he'd have again. And for the first time in a long while, he wanted more. Bruce sat in the physical therapy room, sweat slick on his forehead, jaw clenched. The sterile light above buzzed faintly. A parallel bar setup stood in front of him, familiar and unforgiving. The therapist stood nearby, clipboard in hand, patient, professional. You've done this before, he said gently. Doesn't make it easier, Bruce muttered. He gripped the bars, arms trembling slightly. His legs, braced and strapped, felt like dead weight. Okay, the therapist said. On your count, Bruce nodded once, inhaled. then pushed. His arms took most of the burden as he heaved himself forward. One step, half a step. The tremble turned to a shake. He collapsed onto the padded bench before the second bar. The therapist moved to catch him, but Bruce raised a hand. "Don't. I've got it. You're pushing yourself hard." "Not hard enough," Bruce snapped. Silence followed. Then, a soft knock at the door. Cheryl peeked in, holding a paper bag. "Lunch delivery," she said with a cautious smile. Bruce didn't meet her eyes. The therapist nodded and stepped out, giving them space. Cheryl walked in slowly and placed the bag on a nearby table. "You okay?" she asked. "No," Bruce muttered. "I'm furious." She sat beside him but didn't touch him. "You know you don't have to prove anything to me, right?" He looked up, sweat dripping down his temple. "This isn't about you." "Then tell me what it's about." "It's about walking into a room without people seeing me as a story." "You are a story," she said gently. "But that doesn't mean you're stuck on one page." He turned away. "Bruce." He didn't answer. She reached out, brushing her fingers over his hand. He didn't pull away, but he didn't lean in either. "You're allowed to be angry," she said, "but don't let the anger drown you." He exhaled, slow and tight. "I'm tired of trying and falling." "You're not failing," she said. "You're rebuilding." He looked at her finally. "Do you ever look at me and miss the version of me that walked tall and owned rooms?" Cheryl's eyes softened. "No." "No?" She shook her head. "I don't miss someone I never knew. I want the man who's choosing to rise when he could have given up." Bruce stared at her, unsure what to say. Cheryl smiled softly. "You don't have to stand on your feet to be the strongest man in the room." He laughed once, bitterly. "Try telling that to my ego." "I'm not dating your ego." That got a small smirk out of him. She leaned in and kissed his forehead, then whispered, "Eat, then rest, then try again." He closed his eyes, nodding. She stood, quietly walking toward the door. But just before stepping out, she added, "You're not alone, Bruce. You never were." And then she left. Back at the penthouse, Bruce sat in silence that evening, staring out at the rain streaking down the windows. The city blurred beyond the glass, familiar yet distant. He hadn't texted Cheryl, hadn't answered when she called. He didn't know how to show her the war happening inside him without looking like a man still falling apart. The door clicked open. He turned, expecting his assistant. But it was her, Cheryl, soaked to the skin. No umbrella. Dress clinging to her legs. Hair stuck to her cheeks. He blinked. "What are you doing?" She dropped her purse on the entry table and walked straight toward him, dripping across the floor. "You didn't call me back. I didn't want to talk." Tough. Bruce opened his mouth to argue, but she was already in front of him. "You can shut out the world if you want," she said. "But you don't shut out the people who are showing up." He stood, or tried to. She stepped forward and pressed her hands to his chest. "I don't want the perfect version of you, Bruce," she said. "I want the one who's real, who's struggling, who's showing up in pieces if that's all he's got that day." He looked at her, dripping, trembling, fierce. And something cracked, not from pain, from relief. He opened his arms. She stepped in. He held her tight. And in that silence he realized he wasn't tired of trying. He was tired of trying alone. The rain struck the balcony glass in rhythmic waves, soft and steady like a drumbeat behind a confession. Bruce held Cheryl against him, their bodies pressed together in the middle of his penthouse living room. She was still drenched, her soaked dress sticking to her skin, her hair dripping down her back. "You're cold," he murmured against her temple. "I'm here," she replied, not moving. "That's what matters." They stood in silence. The city blurred beyond the windows, water painting streaks across the night. Then Cheryl stepped back. She took his hand. "Come outside with me." Bruce hesitated. "It's pouring." "I know." He gave a short breath. "And I'm not—" "Don't say it," she cut in gently. "I didn't fall for a man who needed to walk. I fell for the one who didn't hide." She opened the sliding door, and a gust of cool air swept into the room. Cheryl stepped into the rain, barefoot, dress clinging tighter with each second. She raised her arms to the sky, tilted her head back. Bruce watched her like she was made of something the world forgot how to hold. He rolled toward the threshold, paused, then crossed it. The rain hit him instantly, cold, cleansing. It drenched his shirt, flattened his hair, ran down his neck like electricity. He stopped a few feet from her. Cheryl turned, eyes locked on his. She stepped closer, water trailing down her skin like silver. She straddled him slowly, climbing into his lap, her thighs flush against his hips. "You're not glass," she whispered. "I won't treat you like something fragile." Her lips met his, wet, warm, unrelenting. His hands found her waist, gripping tighter than before. Not out of fear, but ownership, desire, truth. Cheryl deepened the kiss, hips rolling gently against him. "I want you," he said, voice low and raw. "You have me," she replied. Her fingers slipped beneath his soaked shirt, tracing the muscle beneath. Her palms pressed flat to his chest. "Let go, Bruce. I'm trying." "Stop trying." She kissed him again, tongue flicking, lips demanding, her mouth moving over his jaw, his neck, his shoulder. The rain silenced everything but their breaths. Cheryl pulled the dress over her head and tossed it to the side, revealing damp skin that glowed under the lightning behind them. Bruce ran his hands along her sides, up her ribs, resting just below her chest. She nodded once. "Yes." He cupped her gently, reverently. "You're not dreaming," she said, reading the doubt in his eyes. "You're here, with me." She reached down between them, guiding him, and slowly sank onto him, 1 inch at a time, never breaking eye contact. Bruce let out a ragged breath. "God," he muttered. "No," she whispered. "Just me." She moved slowly, water cascading off her body, their skin slick, their rhythm deliberate. It wasn't frantic. It was earned. Every thrust, every grind, every moan, built on nights of silence, on days of fear, on moments neither of them thought they'd ever get back. Bruce's hands gripped her tighter, fingers digging in, holding her like she was anchoring him to the world. "You feel everything, don't you?" she whispered. He nodded, unable to speak. "Then let it happen," she said, riding him deeper, harder. Rain fell harder around them, thunder rumbling in the distance, but neither moved to go inside. Her nails scraped gently down his back. His mouth found her collarbone. They were drenched in the storm, drenched in each other. And then she came, gasping, her voice catching on his name, her hands shaking as she clutched his face. He followed moments later, breathing her name like a prayer, his body jerking beneath hers as his release overtook him. When it ended, they collapsed together, forehead to forehead, hearts hammering, the rain softening into a lullaby around them. "I didn't think I could feel this again," he whispered. "You didn't lose it," she said. "You just needed someone to remind you how." He kissed her again, soft this time, grateful. "Come inside," she said, breath still shaky. He didn't answer. He just held her tighter. Later that night, wrapped in blankets and towels, they lay curled together on the couch. A storm outside, stillness inside. Bruce brushed a thumb across her knuckles. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For not walking away when I tried to." Cheryl smiled into his chest. "You're not that easy to quit." The next morning, Bruce was already up before sunrise. Cheryl stirred awake, her arms stretched across the empty side of the bed. She blinked into the quiet, half expecting the silence to feel cold again, but it didn't. She found him in the living room, not brooding, not withdrawn, practicing. He was gripping the parallel bars he'd installed at home last month and almost forgotten about. Sweat beaded at his temple. His jaw was tight. Every muscle in his upper body trembled with focus. She didn't say a word, just watched. Bruce shifted his weight. One step, barely anything, but it was forward, then another. He made it halfway down the bars before he paused, breathing heavy, but not quitting. Cheryl stepped closer and leaned in the doorway. I was gonna make coffee, she said softly. Bruce looked over his shoulder, chest heaving. Let me finish this first. She smiled. Take your time. He returned his focus to the bars. Another step. It wasn't smooth. It wasn't clean. But it was progress. By the time he reached the end, his arms shook violently, and his legs burned with effort. He gritted his teeth, collapsing onto the padded bench at the end with a low exhale. Cheryl walked over and handed him a towel. He took it, face dripping, expression caught somewhere between pain and pride. You didn't say anything, he noted. I didn't need to, she said. You already knew. He looked at her. I'm doing this. She nodded. Yes, you are. Finn came running into the room moments later, still in his pajamas, arms spread wide. Did you walk again, Bruce? Bruce smiled. I did, buddy. Finn pumped his fists in the air. That's awesome. Cheryl crouched beside him. Can you high-five Bruce for being strong? Finn ran forward and smacked Bruce's palm with a giggle. The moment hung there, simple, warm, earned. Bruce didn't speak for a second. Then he whispered, almost to himself, I haven't felt like this in years. Like what? Cheryl asked. Capable, he said. Worthy. Cheryl kissed his temple. You always were. You just forgot. He reached up, resting his hand against her cheek. I want to keep rising. Then keep going. That afternoon, Bruce met with his assistant in the study. Papers spread across the desk. Event invitations. Interview requests. Brand offers. All flooding in after his heartfelt social media post. Everyone wants to talk, she said. And they want her involved. Bruce nodded. Then give them yeses with conditions, such as no headlines without her approval, no photos without her presence, and no story without the truth. The assistant scribbled notes. And, he added, I want to start a foundation. Not just one night of charity. Something long-term. For what cause? Bruce turned to the window, watching Cheryl and Finn laughing in the garden. For mobility, access, dignity. For people like me who didn't just lose their legs, but lost their voice. His assistant blinked. That's powerful. It's overdue, he said. The next day, Bruce sat in front of the cameras for the first time in nearly 2 years. No script, no handler, just him. He looked into the lens. My name is Bruce Laurent. Some of you know me from before. Some of you only know the wheelchair. That's fine. But tonight, I want to reintroduce myself. He paused, took a breath. I am not ruined. I am not a headline. I am not a tragedy wrapped in a tuxedo. His eyes softened. I am loved. By a woman who didn't need my legs to believe in my strength. By a boy who high-fives me like I'm a superhero. And now, by myself again. He smiled gently. So if you're watching this and you've ever felt invisible, know that you are not. The recording ended. No edits. Just truth. Later that night, Bruce wheeled himself into the bedroom where Cheryl stood brushing her hair. He paused in the doorway. I made it to the kitchen without help today. She turned. You proud? He nodded. But not because I walked. She tilted her head. Then why? Because I didn't feel alone doing it. She set the brush down and walked over to him. Neither did I. He pulled her into his lap, arms wrapping around her waist. They kissed, not as escape, not as recovery, but as promise. The ballroom looked the same. Same chandelier, same marble floor, same glossy silence before the doors opened. But this time, Bruce Laurent wasn't alone. He sat tall in his chair, hands calm on the armrests, black velvet jacket tailored to perfection. Not to hide, to own. Beside him stood Cheryl, glowing in emerald green, her curls pinned elegantly, her gaze steady. And just behind her, holding her hand, was Finn, in a new little tuxedo, bow tie perfectly crooked. Are you nervous? Cheryl asked, smoothing her dress. Bruce shook his head. Not even a little. You're lying, she teased. Maybe a little. Cheryl leaned in. Then lie like a king. He smiled at her, his nerves folding beneath the warmth in her eyes. Then the doors opened. Flashbulbs greeted them, not with scandal, not with suspicion, but with welcome. Reporters didn't yell. They applauded. The crowd inside parted like water. Bruce rolled forward at his own pace, Cheryl's hand resting lightly on his shoulder, Finn skipping ahead like he owned the place. No whispers, only admiration. People didn't avoid him now. They turned toward him, smiled, nodded, reached for his hand. He returned every one. His presence no longer felt like a question mark. He was the answer. The event was a benefit for spinal injury research, hosted by his new foundation, Rise Again. The name wasn't chosen by branding consultants. It was chosen in the rain. Bruce wheeled to the stage alone as soft piano music faded. He took his place behind the clear podium and adjusted the mic himself. The room hushed. He paused for a moment, looking not at the cameras but the people. "I want to thank everyone for being here tonight," he began. No long speeches. "I'm not here to entertain. I'm here to thank..." A breath. "I disappeared for a while. Maybe some of you noticed. Maybe some of you didn't." A few chuckles. "I used to measure my worth by how many countries I closed deals in each week, or how many people snapped when I walked into a boardroom." He glanced toward Cheryl. "But none of that felt like life. Not really. Not until I lost everything I thought made me strong, and had to start again." The room fell quiet. "I believed, for a long time, that the worst thing to happen to me was waking up in a chair." He paused. "But I was wrong." A shift in the room. The worst thing was not waking up to love. He turned slightly, extending his hand toward the crowd. Cheryl stepped forward, took it, and for the first time, he stood. Not fully, not easily. But with her help, he rose to his feet, slow, steady, trembling but tall. The room erupted. Applause. Cheers. Some even stood with him. He didn't speak until it quieted again. "I didn't stand tonight because I'm healed. I stood because I'm loved. Fully. Without question. Without edits." He pulled Cheryl closer. "And if you take anything from this night, let it be this. Your broken pieces don't disqualify you from joy. They prepare you for it." He stepped back, leaning again into the support of his chair. "To the ones who stayed," he said. Glasses lifted. "To the ones who made me want to rise again." The applause was thunderous. Cheryl wiped a tear. Finn clapped harder than anyone in the room. And Bruce, he simply breathed. Calm. Whole. Home. The gala had ended. The last glasses clinked. The last applause faded, and the chandeliers dimmed to a gentle glow. Bruce didn't leave through the back exit. He rolled straight out the front doors, hand in hand with Cheryl, while Finn dozed lightly against her shoulder. Outside, the car waited. The driver opened the door, but Bruce didn't move right away. He looked at Cheryl beneath the halo of the streetlights. "I meant every word," he said softly. "I know. I didn't say them for the crowd." She smiled. "I know that too." He looked down at Finn, then back to her. "You both saved me." Cheryl adjusted the little boy's weight in her arms. "No. We reminded you." He reached up, brushing his thumb beneath her eye. "You're the only person who's ever looked at me and seen more than what changed." "I saw the man who never left," she replied. "He was just waiting to be chosen again." Bruce nodded slowly. "I want more of this." Cheryl tilted her head. "Define this." "Waking up next to you. Grocery shopping with one of us pretending we know how to cook. Even the nights where we argue about stupid things. I want all of it." She blinked, but didn't smile yet. "Because you love me?" "No," he said. "Because I trust you." That landed. She swallowed hard. "That's even better." Bruce looked down. "I'll never be the man I was." "Good," she said. He looked up, surprised. She stepped closer. "That man didn't know how to be held. This one does." He touched her waist, pulling her in. "Then hold on to me. Because I'm not letting go this time." Cheryl shifted, reaching behind her to open the car door. Finn stirred in her arms, groggy but calm. Bruce helped her settle him in the back seat, the boy curling against the cushions with a content sigh. When she closed the door, Bruce didn't climb into the car. He just stood still for a moment, facing her under the soft streetlight, the echo of the evening still clinging to the air. "You ready to go home?" she asked. He looked at her, really looked. Then he cupped her face in both hands, leaned in, and kissed her with every quiet vow that didn't make it into the speech. Not performance, not obligation, just promise. When they pulled apart, Cheryl exhaled slowly. "I never asked you for forever," she said. "I know," he replied. "But I want it. I already gave it to you," he whispered. "You just hadn't noticed yet." She smiled, then kissed him again, softer, longer. Bruce opened the passenger door and positioned himself to slide in. Cheryl steadied him. "You're not helping me because you have to, right?" he teased. "No," she smirked. "I'm helping because I want the man I love to get home without tearing a seam." He laughed. "That's fair." She climbed in beside him. The car pulled into the soft night, headlights slicing through the calm like declarations. They didn't speak on the drive back. They didn't need to. Their hands stayed locked between them. Finn slept peacefully behind them, and the world, for once, felt like it could wait. Back home, Cheryl tucked Finn into bed while Bruce wheeled slowly. Into the kitchen, still wearing the same velvet jacket, tie undone. He stared out the window, watching the faint reflections in the glass. Cheryl joined him minutes later, barefoot, hair down now, her makeup faded, but her eyes still alight. "You didn't flinch once tonight," she said. "I didn't have to." "What changed?" "You stood next to me." She leaned on the counter, facing him. "That's not new." "No," he agreed. "But tonight, I let myself feel it." She stepped forward and unbuttoned his jacket. "You're safe now, Bruce." And seen. He reached up and cupped her neck, thumb grazing her jaw. "Say it again," he whispered. "You're seen." He closed his eyes. "That matters more than you know." "I do know," she said, pulling his jacket off and tossing it to a nearby chair. She guided him gently toward the hallway. "Come to bed," she said softly. "Only if you promise not to let me go." Cheryl stopped at the doorway, turned back, and smiled. "I don't do temporary." The apartment smelled like comfort. Warm linen, faint lavender, a lingering trace of rain from earlier in the week. Bruce rolled into the living room while Cheryl tucked Finn into bed, the boy already halfway to dreaming. The soft hum of the white noise machine pulsed from the bedroom down the hall. He took off his shoes and set them by the door. No staff, no handlers, no silence echoing back at him like it used to. Just a home that felt like home. Cheryl reappeared moments later in a simple tank top and pajama pants, wiping off her makeup with a soft cloth. Bruce looked at her like she was a sunset that refused to fade. "You always this peaceful after world domination?" he teased. She chuckled. "Only when I don't have to argue with reporters." She climbed onto the couch beside him, legs folding underneath her, head resting lightly on his shoulder. They stayed that way for a long moment, breathing, grounding. The television was off. Their phones were somewhere in the kitchen. The world could wait. "Did you ever think you'd be here?" she asked. "No." "What did you think instead?" "That I'd be a well-dressed ghost," he said softly. "Present, but never really back." Cheryl looked up at him. "And now?" He smiled. "Now I'm present and planning brunch." She snorted. "You hate brunch." "I love your brunch." She kissed his cheek. "Liar." "I'm improving." They both laughed. Then, silence again. But this time, it wasn't about distance. It was about enoughness. Bruce glanced toward the hallway. "Do you think he'll remember this when he's older?" he asked. "Finn?" "Yeah. All of it. The galas, the garden. The fact that his mom dated a man in a chair." Cheryl leaned her head back down against his shoulder. "He won't remember that you were in a chair. He'll remember that you never let it keep you from holding him, from protecting me, from standing when it mattered." Bruce swallowed. That answer settled something deep. Not just in his heart, but in the part of him that used to carry shame like a second spine. Cheryl continued. He'll remember that love didn't come easy, but it came right. Bruce turned toward her. I want to raise him with you, he said quietly. Not just be around, not just pass through. Cheryl froze. Her eyes met his. You mean it? I mean it every day, he said. You don't feel like something temporary. You feel like the reason I didn't give up. She kissed him softly, slowly, then whispered, we'll build something permanent, together. The next morning, sunlight poured through the windows, clear, unfiltered, golden. Bruce was already up, making a mess in the kitchen while Finn sat on the floor beside him, stacking measuring cups like building blocks. Cheryl leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching them both. Bruce noticed her and grinned. We're attempting pancakes. They're attempting. Finn clarified with a giggle. Bruce pointed a spatula at him. Traitor. Cheryl walked over, kissed Finn's forehead, then Bruce's temple. This is what I wanted, she said. Chaos and batter? No, she smiled. This. Us. Bruce looked around the room. Flour on the counter, syrup already opened, music playing low in the background. This is home, he said. Cheryl leaned against the counter, her hand slipping into his. Fully. Forever, he replied. Later that evening, after the sun had set, and Finn was tucked into bed, with his favorite stuffed animal, Cheryl stepped out onto the balcony. Bruce followed behind her, moving slowly, deliberately, but without assistance. The city lights glittered below them. I used to think success looked like owning the skyline, he said. And now? She asked. He turned to her, eyes soft. Now it looks like this balcony. This moment. You... Cheryl leaned against the railing. Bruce stood beside her, not perfectly, not for long, but long enough to make the moment count. He reached for her hand. She laced her fingers through his. They stood like that for a long time, not needing fireworks, not needing more applause, just the quiet, the city, and each other. Did this story touch your heart? Comment below if you believe that love doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be present. Like, share, and subscribe to Mr. Hearthline Stories, because second chances deserve to be told.